Good evening to one and all. Welcome you all to the daily current affairs session brought to you by Ganesh IAS Academy for the date 25th August 2023 for the news which came in Indian Express newspaper. Okay, let's get into the today's current affair analysis. The news: building inclusive value chains. So what does this means is we will look into you will get to know once we get into the analysis part of the news. Okay, our Prime Minister during the conference of G20 in relation to trade and investment, which is right now being held in Jaipur, I said that the MSMEs needed to be integrated with the global trade value chain so that the efficiency as well as the productivity of the MSMEs will enhance and it will be leading to the overall inclusive growth of the global development. And then India has proposed a framework for mapping global value chain at G20 meet. So what is the purpose of introducing global framework for mapping global value chain is that to identify the risk in the global value chains. What are all the risks being involved through this mapping? Second is, once we get to know about the risk, we could able to mitigate the risk. How should we needed to overcome this kind of risk? So such kind of inputs will be available once the framework for mapping of global value chain is implemented by G20. But right now it is only a proposal being submitted by India at the G20 meet, and it need the consensus from other member countries on to get it approved. And what our Prime Minister has said that nearly 60 to 70% of the global employment as well as the 50% of this global GDP is contributed by the MSME sector. So this is what the news is related to. So our Prime Minister talked about MSME scales, MSME sectors, and the impact it creates when it is integrated with the global value chain. Okay, how the news is related to civil service examination is that the news is related to UPSC GS3 economic development under a subtopic called Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resource, growth, development and employment. Okay, let's look into what are the previous year questions being asked in relation to the news. According to that, we will look into UPSC prelims question, previous year prelims question. Which of the following can aid in furthering the government's objective of inclusive growth? Promoting self-help group, promoting MSMEs and implementing Right to Education Act. All this directly will be leading to inclusive growth of India. Inclusive in the sense it will be it will include those people who are being involved in the agri as well as non-agriculture activities, and then it will be integrating the MSMEs value chain into the domestic production, and then it will enable those people, those who have been marginalized section of the society, to get access to the education. So these three components acts as a engine or the driver for the objective of our inclusive growth. So answer option D, all 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Okay. Let's discuss about how this MSMEs have been classified. Initially, it was classified based only on the investment criteria. Investment in the plant as well as machineries, based on which the manufacturing enterprises and service enterprises have been classified separately. So, if a particular industry needed to be classified as micro means, then it needed to have an investment, say 25 lakh and less than it. And in the case of service enterprise, it should have less than 10 lakh investment. So such kind of enterprises will be called as micro level enterprise. And in the case of small level enterprise, if an organization or an enterprise needed to be called a small level organization, means it should have investment less than 5 crores, and then in the case of service enterprise, it should have less investment less than 2 crores. Similarly, for medium scale enterprise, the investment needed to be less than 10 crore but greater than 5 crore. But in the case of service enterprise, the investment needed to be less than 5 crores and greater than 2 crores. So this is how the MSME sectors have been classified previously. But after COVID pandemic, government revamped or changed the criteria according to the current need, so that the requirement for a particular enterprise to be classified as micro or scale or small or medium enterprise is same for both manufacturing as well as service enterprise, and the criteria has been changed. Initially it was only investment, and right now it is investment and also the turnover. So if an organization needed to be classified, either it may be manufacturing or service enterprise, it should have an investment less than 1 crore and a turnover less than 5 crore. And for an organization needed to be classified as small enterprise, means it should have an investment less than 10 crore and the turnover less than 50 crores. And for the medium scale, the investment needed to be less than 50 crores and the turnover needed to be less than 250 crores. So this is what the MSME's classification is about, and how this is based on this criteria only an enterprise will be classified, either it belongs to micro or small or medium scale. Okay, let's discuss about what is the situation of MSME in India. Right now, MSME shares in the India's GDP is 29.2 percentage. So it contributes 29.2 percentage of gross value addition in our GDP, and at the same time its output in comparison with the overall manufacturing output is 36.2 percentage, and then its share in export is nearly 43.6 percentage, nearly 44 percentage. These are all the accurate data which is available in the ministry's website. So this is how the importance, this is what this kind of importance it carries. See, the share of export is 43.6 percentage, and it contributes nearly 30 percentage in terms of gross value addition to our GDP, and its share in terms of manufacturing is 36.2. Such a kind of importance it holds for Indian economy, but it is facing some challenges like lack of access to credit because of requirement for collateral and the trust between the banker as well as the accessor. Lack of trust between the banking as well as the accessor, and also the requirement of collateral may hindering or making this MSMEs industry to lack access to credit. Second is the MSME industries suffers because of lack of skills for the workers, and then It also suffers because of lack of managerial as well as marketing skills. Because of lack of understanding about the market and also the lack of expertise in the managerial decisions, MSMEs suffers in making important strategic decision and as well as understanding market. So that most of the time they produce products less than the demand, or sometimes they produce more products which is more than the demand in the market, which is more than the demand. So it leading to a loss of the MSMEs. And then fourth is lack of adaptation to the latest technology is hindering them to access the global market, and unequal competition between, because of these kind of lacunae, they are suffering from unequal competition with the large organizations or industries. And then there is lack of standardization in the process as well as output MSMEs are produced from the policymakers side. So these are all the challenges right now which is facing the MSME sector in India. Okay, what is the advantage of MSME is it promotes employment, that is those people, those who have been unskilled or mediumly skilled or sometimes fully skilled could able to get a job in MSME sectors. And through the data itself, as I said, it is a major contributor for the export from India, and as a result of which it is the major forex revenue earner for our India. Then it acts as important input source for the products which are being produced by the large organization, so that the sustainability of the bigger organization is depending on the MSMEs sectors. And then because of this increased export and increased employment and in turn sustaining the big industries, government could able to earn a revenue in terms of tax. And then the innovations that has been produced in MSMEs is based upon the local level needs rather than the unwanted demand or supply that has been produced. So these are all the advantage it holds. So what needed to done, what are the way forward is that there need to be a clear policy so that it will act as catalyst for the MSMEs growth. And then the MSMEs needed to adapt the latest technology, and then they needed to get updated with the changes of technology in the future so that they could able to access the global market. Third, the rules as well as the regulations need to be liberalized so that they could lead to smooth functioning of MSME sectors. Similarly, there should be an institute or organization which should enable the MSME sector to skill or reskill or upskill their employees. Okay, what are all the initiatives taken by the government to promote MSME is MSME Equity Self-Reliant Indian Fund has been created to promote the MSME's growth during the pandemic time. Second is no global tender will be given for procurement up to 200 crores. So they want through this global through this program they wanted to promote the domestic production of our MSME. Second is champion portal to handhold the MSME sectors for their growth and also make them habituate with the e-governance initiatives of the government. And then inclusion of wholesale as well as retail traders as MSMEs during the pandemic time. And then Make in India, Digital India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, these are all the major initiatives were introduced to promote MSME sectors. Similarly, Udayam Assist platform, it is also the case which is being implemented to promote the MSMEs. So these are all the major initiatives which has been introduced by our government recent times to promote the overall ecosystem of the MSME sectors. Similarly, what we needed to study further is we should know about the national manufacturing policy. Second is we should know about the industrial policy of India. Then third, we should know about what is the e-Shram portal and what does the importance does it hold. Similarly, fourth is we should know about the skill mission of India. This is what the complete analysis in relation to the MSME sectors of India is. Growth as well as tier 2 city. Okay, let's analyze about what does the topic holds. In the article which came in today's Indian Express newspaper, what the author has mentioned is that right now India's GDP is growing, but at the same time India's unemployment rate is also growing. So there is a paradox. So the author tried to analyze that, and what he had said is that India's development is lopsided. How it is lopsided is, if infrastructure needed to be developed means it is not only the physical infrastructure but also the social infrastructure that needed to be developed. Social infrastructure means education as well as health. But in the case of India, there has been rapid progress made in physical infrastructure. But the social infrastructure like education as well as skilling those youth has been lagging. And then these physical progress made in the physical infrastructure is heavily concentrated on the urban areas only. So the rural area suffers from both the physical as well as the social infrastructure. And then right now manufacturing industries are, in order to increase their competitiveness, are right now de-urbanizing their production system. That is, they are moving away from the urban areas, so that they are moving away from urban areas and they are going to rural areas, so that their cost of land and the administrative requirement and the other cost will be reduced, so that they could be able to become competitive in the domestic as well as the global level. So they are now moving towards the rural area, but the rural area suffers from both the physical as well as the social infrastructure. Why the author has taken the example of manufacturing is, manufacturing is the sector that could be able to employ those persons or people who have been employed as disguised employment in agriculture sector. So it has huge potential to employ most number of peoples. So since they are moving towards rural, and because of the lack of physical as well as social infrastructure in the rural, the manufacturing sector is suffering. At the same time, in the urban area also, even if the physical infrastructure is present, the social infrastructure like education as well as skill is lagging. So the output is produced, but at the same time the unemployment rate is also getting increased. This is what the reason has been said by the author. So there need to be enhancement in the education as well as the skill is the final recommendation given by him. Okay, how then the news is related to civil service examination is, the news is related to UPSC General Studies Paper 2 under a topic called Social Justice, under a subtopic called Issues Relating to Development and Management of Social Security Service and relating to health, education as well as human resources. Okay, let's know about how the questions been asked previously in relation to the topic. in one of the previous year mains question, there was a question like, how have our digital initiative in India contributed to the manufacturing of the education system in the country? Elaborate on your answer. So this is what the question looks like. Okay, there is a prelims question in relation to the news which came in today's the news which we have discussed right now. Okay, with reference to Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, consider the following statement. It is the flagship scheme of Ministry of Labour and Employment, and it is among other things will also impart training in soft skill, entrepreneurship, financial as well as digital literacy, and it aims to align the competency of the unregulated workforce of the country to the national skill qualification framework. Yes, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana is one of the scheme being implemented by Ministry of Skill as Ministry of Skill Development as well as Entrepreneurship. So the statement 1 is wrong, and it is among the other thing will impart training in soft skill, entrepreneurship, financial as well as digital literacy. The statement is second statement is correct, and then it aims to align the competencies of unregulated workforce of the country to the national skill qualification framework. Yes, this statement is also correct. So the answer is option C, 2 as well as 3. Okay, let's look into how the education is in India is. The total enrollment in higher education has increased to 4.4 crores in 2020-2021 from 3.85 crores in the previous year 2019-2020, and the female, these are related to higher education. But in the case of female enrollment, they have been also increased from 1.88 crores to 2.01 crores in 2020-2021. But in the case of, this is the data related to the higher education enrollment in India. In terms of quantity, it may looks very huge, but when we are turning them into a percentage level, it is merely some 26 to 27% only. So this is what the data looks like. Second is the school's gross enrollment ratio has also been a very decent level. That gender parity between the girls as well as boys has been reduced, and it is looking healthy. And in the case of primary education sector, see the number of the percentage of the girls being enrolled at the primary education level is 104.8%. In the case of boys is 102.1%. And in the case of upper primary, we could able to see a reduction. 94 point upper primary is those students who belong to 6th to 8th standard, that is the age between 10 to 13, and girl as well as boys are 94.9% out of the total population between the age of 10 to 13 and the 94.5% in the case of boys in the upper gross enrollment ratio. In the case of higher secondary, that is those belonging to 9th to 12th standard, the gross enrollment ratio is again getting reduced when compared with the upper primary as well as the primary section. In this, the girls enrollment ratio is only 79.4%, but in the case of boys it is also 79.7%. So from the data we could able to see that the gender parity is almost closed, but in the case of dropout, it is getting increased when the students are moving from one stage to another stage, like primary to upper primary and upper primary to secondary. So this is the worrying condition. Okay, let's see what is the data showing related to the school dropouts. See again, this is 2021, this is the latest data. In terms of primary, the number of dropouts of girls is 1.4%, but in the case of boys is again 1.6%. In the case of upper primary, dropout is, for the girls it is 3.3, for the boys it is 2.7, and from the secondary level education we could be able to see that there has been drastic increase in the dropout rates. That is, for girls it is nearly 12.3% of the girl students are getting dropped out from the school in the secondary level of education. Then boys, nearly 13% of the boys are getting dropped out from the secondary level of education. So when the students are moving towards the from one stage of the education to the another stage, the dropout level is increasing more than four the times. And in the case of infrastructure, we could able to see that there is a good improvement in the girls as well as boys toilets availability. And during 2021 and 22 period, the number of girls as well as boys toilet are 97.5% and 96.2% in the out of the entire schools. And in the case of hand wash facility, it is 93.6, and in the case of library, reading room, reading corner, it is 87.3. In the case of electricity, it is 89.3% out of the overall school. And the medical checkups in a school in a year is 54.6%, and then computers as well as internet is only very less. In the case of computer infrastructure, it is only 47.5 percentage of schools are having computer facility, and in the case of internet, it is only 33.9 schools are having the internet facility. These are all data in terms of percentage. So we could able to see that there is a good improvement in terms of sanitary, but there is a lot way to go in terms of the other digital infrastructure. So what are all the challenges being faced in our school education system is, first is outdated pedagogical method. See, the pedagogical method which are right now taught in the school are outdated, and it is very rotten, and it is more oriented towards mark rather than the values as well as innovation related methods. And then lack of quality in teachers. The qualities in the teachers is also getting reduced. Why? Because of lack of training infrastructure to the teacher, and at the same time there is a lot of corruption has been happening in the intake of the teachers. And then there is lack of accountability, because all the schools are not having the school management committee, only in the paper they are having, but in reality or in the true spirit they are not having school management committee. And then there is high dropout rate. From the data which we have seen in the previous slide, we could able to see that when the student is moving from one level of their school education to another level, correspondingly the dropout rate is also getting increased. And then not only the teaching method but also the assessment method is also more oriented towards mark system. And then there is a deficit in overall infrastructure. Similarly, the non-academic burden on the staff is getting increased so that they could not able to concentrate on the academic part of their curriculum. Oh, what is the challenges being faced in the higher education is that there is, first is, in higher education there is reduction in gross enrollment ratio. Particularly the girls' gross enrollment ratio in the higher education is very less when compared to the boys. Similarly, there is lack of R&D infrastructure or linking the higher education with the research institute is absent. And then there is lack of a lot of political interference in the governance of higher education. Similarly, there is reduced or reduction in the teacher student ratio. Because of this kind of thing, the quality of the students, those who are coming out from the higher educational institution, is also getting reduced. So these are all the challenges being faced in the higher education sector of India. So what need to be done is there need to be revamping of higher education governance system, so that the transparency and accountability and the credibility of the system will be ensured. Similarly, the research needed to be made compulsory in every higher education institution. And then quality education with values needed to be given both through higher education as well as the school education. And then a foreign collaboration needed to be, foreign collaboration and the student exchange programs should be made available to the every educational institutions. What are the government initiatives being taken to promote the primary education is, recently a Prime Minister introduced Schools for Rising India. Under it, they will be developing some 14,000 odd schools, which sets as the benchmark for the development of overall schools in India. Second is National Curriculum Framework for Foundational Stage itself. Third is National Credit Framework. And then Project Balvatika. It is preparatory class, that is preparing the children for the school education system. And then Samagra Shiksha scheme. So these are all the initiatives being introduced to promote these primary education or the school education, overall school education. And then what are all the initiatives being taken to promote higher education sector is the national education, introduction of national education policy, which has been made in tune with the current requirements, global as well as domestic requirements. Second is Swayam scheme. Then third is e-Pathshala for the online PG courses. Similarly, common university entrance test being introduced to ensure the transparency as well as accessibility of the university to the students. So these are all the initiatives being introduced to promote school as well as higher education sector respectively. So what we needed to study further is, we should know about the National Research Foundation, which has been introduced recently to promote overall R&D across India. Similarly, you should know about UGC as well as AICTE. And then third is, we should know about the All India Survey on the higher education And fourth is we should know about the constitutional provisions related to education. And then we have to know about Right to Education Act 2009. So these are all the things which we needed to be aware of. Similarly, we should also know Article 21. Okay, this will be coming under this topic itself, 21A, which made education as the fundamental rights. So this is what the oral analysis related to the education sector in India. India's first carbon negative garrison has been formed or made in India. The College of Military Engineering, which is at Pune, has commissioned 5 megawatt. So taking a total of 7 megawatt of solar power production in their campus, so that they are becoming a carbon negative institute, a garrison institute, India's first carbon negative garrison institute. Similarly, and this solar plants will be connected to Maharashtra's state electricity grid, so that the solar power supply could be supplied to other military facilities which are present in different parts of the states. And then because of this achievement, the objective of the National Solar Mission as well as the National Clean Air Program has been achieved by the College of Military Engineering. So this is what the news is about. Okay, let's discuss how the news is related to UPSC exam. The news is related to UPSC General Studies Paper 3 under a topic called environment, and then under a subtopic called conservation. Okay, let's look into how the news related to solar power has been asked previously. During the previous year mains question, there was a question like, explain the purpose of Green Grid Initiative launched at World Leaders Summit of the Conference of Party 26 United Nations Climate Change Conference in Glasgow in November 2021. When was this idea first floated in the International Solar Alliance? 10 mark 2021. It is a question asked during the year 21. Okay. And then there was a prelims question in relation to the solar power production. India is the third largest in the world in the manufacture of silicon wafers used in photovoltaic unit. No, the statement is wrong. Similarly, the semiconductor related manufacture is now only picking up in India, and India is not the third largest country. And similarly, second, 1 minute. The solar power tariffs are determined by Solar Energy Corporation of India. And then this statement is also wrong. Power tariff has been determined by Central Electricity Regulatory Commission. Not by Solar Energy Corporation of India. It is the Power Trading Corporation only, not the corporation which decides the tariff. So both the statement are wrong. So answer is option D, neither one nor two. Okay, let's discuss about the College of Military Engineering, which was established in 1948. An institute to train forces across all the sectors like Indian Army, Navy and Air Force, and it also trains those people from the other friendly nations, and it will be training in the technical as well as tactical aspects with changing nature of warfare, and it has been located at Pune. Okay, what is this negative carbon emission is? Negative carbon emission is nothing but the emission produced by an organization is less than zero. How the emission produced by an organization will become less than zero is that the net emission of an entity, which is determined by offsetting all their efforts, which are made to reduce the carbon through methods like carbon capture, carbon sequestration as well as carbon avoidance. Through this method, if a particular organization is reducing the carbon emission in the surrounding means, then the quantity of the carbon emission which has been reduced through these methods like the carbon capture, carbon sequestration and the carbon avoidance will be reduced from the overall the carbon emitted by the organization, and then it will be, while reducing, it will give a value in the negative sense or negative value. What does it mean is that the amount of carbon produced by the amount of carbon captured or reduced by the organization is very higher than the amount of carbon being produced by them. So this is what the negative carbon emission is about. Okay, let's look into the details of the National Solar Mission. It is one of the 8 missions of National Action Plan for Climate Change, and it has been implemented to promote the penetration of solar power production across the country through centralized as well as decentralized means, and it has fixed a target of 100 gigawatts by 2022. Okay, let's discuss about what are the benefits of a solar power. It will ensure that the energy security of the country is in a balanced position, and then it mitigates the adverse effect being caused by the climate change, because the solar power production produces less amount of or a very minor amount of emissions, so that it reduces the impact of the climate change. Similarly, it will be saving a huge quantity of forex reserve of India, which is paid in the form of crude oil bill to the Gulf countries or the other Western as well as African countries. And then this penetration of the solar technology will enhance further R&D activities in India in relation to the solar power production, and then it will be reducing the ill health effect which has been caused by the fossil emission. But what are the challenges? There is some challenges to adapt the solar plant in India. Right now, India is depending on import for its solar technology, and then solar power plant needs sun all the time, which is not the case not only in India but also in the overall world. So to offset it, there need to be the storage technology. The cost of implementing of this storage technology is very huge. Then there is a installation issue. The solar plant could not be installed as simply as that. It needed a huge quantity of land, which will directly confront with the environmental degradation. And then there is right now lack of expertise or the skilled person to deal with the solar plant in India, and the cost of maintenance of the solar plant is very high. So these are all the challenges for solar plant adaptation in India. So what initiatives government has taken to promote the solar adaptation is, government has been promoting solar park development across India, and then government has introduced PM Kusum scheme to enhance the solar adaptation at the agriculture sector. Then grid connected rooftop solar program is also being promoted to enhance the adaptation of solar technology or solar plant in India. Okay, which are all the states that produces more number of solar power is that? First is, it is the Rajasthan that produces more solar power in India. Second, it is the Gujarat. So it is the prelims fact which we should be remembering. Then third is the Karnataka. Fourth is Tamil Nadu. Then fifth is Maharashtra. These are all the top 5 states in terms of production of solar power. Okay, what we needed to study further is, we should know about the energy mix of India. So what percentage of the fossil fuel and what percentage of the renewable fuels, and what percentage of this in that renewable fuel, what percentage of the solar fuel has been mixed in our energy in India, in energy production in India. And then we need to know about other renewable energy promotional scheme or adaptational scheme. Then third, we should know about the air quality index of India. What are all the parameters or components being involved in calculating the air quality index of India. Then we should know about the concept of climate change. So these are all the other areas which we needed to be aware of, and this is what the analysis in relation to the solar power, particularly solar power in India, is about. Inflation pandemic pushed the Asian people to poverty. According to the Asian Development Bank report, it has said that nearly 70 million Asian people have been pushed into pandemic related impact and the inflation related impact. So this is what the major finding of the Asian Development Bank is about. Okay, how the news is related to the exam is that it is related to General Studies Paper 3 Environment Development Economic Development under a topic called Indian Economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resource, growth, as well as development and employment. Okay, what is the Asian Development Bank? We will see it. It is a bank being established in 1966 under the initiative or the effort of the Japan and also United Nations, and right now it has members from both Asia as well as other regions, making them a total of 68 members, and it has been headquartered in Philippines, and the largest contributors or the shareholders in the Asian Development Banks are first Japan and US, second China, third India, fourth is Australia. So these are all the top 4 shareholders in Asian Development Bank, and it has been introduced to promote the sustainable as well as inclusive Asia Pacific region. And then what kind of effect does the pandemic cause to an Indian economy? Indian economy is that whenever the market situation is become fragile, there will be the investors will become worried, so that they will be pulling back their investment. So there was a huge outflow of portfolio investment, as a result of which our depreciation of rupee has happened, so that our import price got increased, so that which in turn it led to widening trade deficit during that period. Similarly, because of this instance, it led to increase in inflation, and then because of the lack of economic activity and then outflow of portfolio investment, reduction in production, as well as increasing in trade deficit, depreciation of rupee, these combinedly enabled an organization to the mass layoff during that period, as a result of which the unemployment rate also got increased. Finally, it all accumulated and it led to the lowering of GDP growth in India during that period. What are the measures being taken to overcome that tough time by the government is Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana has been introduced, so that the people, those who have been living in the below poverty line, are assured of the additional grains, so that the hunger related problems during the time could be reduced. Similarly, emergency credit line guarantee scheme introduced for MSMEs for accessing collateral free banking loans to revamp their production, and then partial credit guarantee scheme for non-banking financial corporations. Similarly, additional emergency working capital funding for farmers through NABARD, so that the farmers interest as well as farmers productions will not get impacted. And then additional borrowing limit was also set for the state government during those periods to overcome the tough time. So this is what the analysis related to the effect of the pandemic in Indian economy and the measures being taken by our state to overcome it. So what we needed to study further is we should know about the other development banks like New Development Bank as well as Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Second is we should know about the poverty and its types, and then we should know about the poverty calculation in India and how the poverty is calculated in the World Bank. So these are all the other areas which we needed to be aware of. Okay, this is the practice question. So I want those students, those who are watching this current affairs session online, please do comment option in the comment section for the question which you are seeing right now on the board. It is the question being framed based on the analysis being made in the previous news slides. So have a look at it. Okay, students, we have reached the end of the session. Oh, these are all the most important news that appear today. So have a look at it, and thank you for listening patiently to the news analysis. Thank you.